sharing your experiences. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to many of that and have a lot of takeaways. Building on the importance of code quality, we're now going to explore how this plays a critical role in environments with high frequency releases. Up next, Simon Watson from Kainos will share his experience managing over 500 annual releases for the UK's passport services.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Simon Watson. I'm a solution architect with Kainos. And for the past 7 of those, I've been with Kainos for 15 years, and for the past 7 of those, I've been working with His Majesty's Passport Office, or HMPO, looking after what's known as their customer or citizen-facing products. There's a number of systems which we look after, but the main ones are applying online for a UK passport and also cancelling a lost or stolen passport. We have a couple of subsystems built in as well, applying online via an appointment to get a passport urgently or applying online via the post office. And within those services, we release changes to production over 500 times a year, which is a few a day or plenty a week. I want to start with a bit of audience interaction, if you don't mind. So I'm looking to find out how often everyone here releases to production if you work in development software. So if you are part of a team that builds a software system, that builds an online service, that builds a digital service, could you raise your hand? Wait, thank you. No, keep it up, sorry, and keep it up, sorry. Could you keep your hand raised if you release less than once a year? So it takes over a year to get to production. Could you keep it up if you release more than twice a year, so once every 6 months? What about once every quarter? More going down, once every month? Once every sprint or 2 weeks? Once every week? Once a day? Yeah, and I'm happy to see that some of my colleagues over in HMPO are the ones with their hands raised. So I think it's fair to say that releasing to production daily or multiple times a day is uncommon or rare. It's worth saying that the approaches that I'm going to cover here, there's nothing new, there's no silver bullet. I'm fairly convinced that lots of people here will have heard of lots of the things that I'm going to say before, but sort of the thing that enables us in HMPO to release every day is how we bring all of these processes and practices together. That's sort of where the magic is. The underlying principle is that our definition of done is that the code is in production. So essentially, it doesn't mean that it's been tested. It doesn't mean that it's been signed off. It means code is released to production. And the way in which the number of practices which we have need to tie together to allow that to happen. First thing is that we have agile scrum teams with full stack developers. Essentially, these teams own outcomes from end to end, and critically, developers within those teams own a story from when they pick it up and start writing the first line of code until that code is deployed to production. Essentially, what you're trying to do here is you're trying to reduce communication overhead. So we don't have front-end or back-end teams. We don't have teams which specialize in certain areas. So if an outcome needs to go through, capturing some data, storing it in a database, creating some notifications, we don't have teams which specialize in those areas. Our teams are able to work through the whole stack on an outcome from end to end. And essentially what you're looking to avoid there is the communication or friction overhead. And that's a key theme amongst this, how we achieve what we do. You're trying to reduce dependency, reduce tight coupling, whether it's in the tech or whether it's within the teams. Essentially Brooks' law of communication comes in, that the more people that you have that need to talk, essentially there's a higher cost to getting something shipped to production. We use microservice architecture. I'm going to talk a bit later about why this is important, but within the customer citizen-facing estate, we have over 60 separate microservices in the services which we look after. We use trunk-based development. Essentially, feature branches are short-lived and then deployed to production. And this is for each microservice, so there's no tie-in of repos between each microservice. They're all independent. Very important, testing. This is how we gain confidence. We use the standard test pyramid where most of the tests execute, our unit and integration tests execute very quick, and that's where most of them are. And we have UI and end-to-end tests higher up the pyramid with less, which take longer to run, but provide more end-to-end value. This is an example from one of our services. So it takes from code commit, it takes less than 5 minutes to build and run the tests. Following the single responsibility principle, it means that we can build and get a release candidate for most of our 60 services. Most of them are less than 5 minutes, and some less than 1 or 2. This is probably one of the most important aspects of this, and this is gaining confidence that whatever you have built is good to go to production. So this is our end-to-end test. We use Selenium with REST assured to ensure that we test the full stack from end to end for all of the services which we look after. So for our lost and stolen services, we have a suite which runs 183 end-to-end tests in 33 minutes, which is approximately 20 seconds per test. That means if we're running these tests every half an hour, it means that we can run it 16 times per working day. So anytime we commit code, we have 16 opportunities to gain confidence that that release candidate is good to go to production. Likewise, for applying online, our journeys are a bit longer, so reporting a passport lost or stolen doesn't take as long as applying online. We have 154 end-to-end tests, and they run within 70 minutes. That's about 8 runs per day. And essentially, it's the same idea. It means that if we have a change, we can get feedback within 70 minutes that that change is good to go to production. And this is the confidence that it gives to our client and HMPO that our changes are good to go to production as well. In terms of continuous integration and continuous deployment, you don't want to couple your services together through your release pipeline. And while this is illustrating that it's tied together via one single release to production job, it could also be interdependencies between services. So you don't want tight coupling. So in this example, if we needed to make an emergency change to our payment service, we wouldn't be able to do this if there's an ongoing change in the photo check service in the journey. And essentially, the way that you answer this is that you have independently deployable and promotable microservices. And so with all of those underlying foundations in place, one of the important things to reduce friction between teams is how you schedule the work. So to go back to microservices, essentially this isn't how our service is built, but it's a representation. And essentially what you wish to achieve is that you hope to have groups of microservices which are split up functionally, which provide business benefits. So to illustrate that with what we do in HMPO, this is several areas where an online passport journey or reporting your passport lost or stolen. Reporting your passport lost or stolen. This is how we would split it up. And the key thing that you want to do or ensure is that you don't have teams, more than one team working in the same area at the same time. We reviewed our product backlog on a 12 monthly forward look, but we also review that on a 3 monthly forward look. And the secret to that is we have a forward view to make sure that we can schedule work so that teams don't step on each other's toes and they're not committing the same code to the same repos and having to rebase and essentially spinning their wheels. So it means that we can schedule work so that teams can work in separate areas at the same time. So we've got ways of working with team setup and CI and CD pipelines. We've went through work scheduling to make sure that teams don't step on each other's toes and burn rubber. And essentially, we have some tech mechanisms which we use as well to enable releases at pace. Sorry for the sort of wall of text, but essentially, the technical mechanism which we use extensively to allow us to always release to production is feature flags. And we don't really use any special tooling. It's gloriously simple. We essentially have true-false flags around certain features, and these are either enabled or disabled with if statements, or it really is that simple. And the ways in which we use them is that we wrap these feature flags around UI elements. We can protect UI routing. We can protect backend APIs. We can disable functions and business features. And when it comes to testing of feature flags, sign-off environments have the flags enabled because that's what we're actively developing. But our pre-production and obviously our production environments for in-development features they're always flagged off, and our automated tests in each of those environments for our sign-off and our pre-production environment represent that as well. That's an example of some feature flags that we've had, so I sort of lifted that. Some recent changes we've done is adding an international address lookup or introducing a CAPTCHA at our payment capture stage, and it really is that simple. It's true-false flags with if statements wrapped around them. We have evaluated certain tools like Launch Darkly, which are a bit more advanced in softly launching features, but we really haven't felt the need to introduce that level of complexity into the service. We feel that that adds too much complexity for the value that it adds. We really do just try and keep it as simple as possible. Another technical mechanism we use is API versioning. Essentially, if you're building new functionality into a back-end API, you spin up a new version and it's just not used until the feature is complete. And we combine this with feature flags. So if you have a UI service, which is calling a back-end service, which is being iterated on and evolved, you continue to build the functionality into the new one, and then when it's ready, you switch over to the new version of the API, deprecate the old one. And like I say, one really good example where we used this was where within HMPO and Apply Online, we were redesigning the data structure to go to a new caseworking system, and it took some time to build the pipeline of delivery of that data down to the caseworking system, so we built it in a new API. We could test that continuously as we evolved it and iterated it in our test environments, but when it came to putting it live, it was as simple as flicking the feature flag or flicking the switch and pointing it to the new one and deprecating the old API. So essentially, through all those things, we can bring it all together. So for microservices, trunk-based development, and feature flags, what you have is, this is an example of adding our international address lookup, which we put live last year. So you can add the feature and iterate on it, but you're constantly deploying with it switched off. You can also add fixes or other stories into the same code repo, and with the new feature still switched off. And then essentially, when you've completed the new feature, you switch it on in production. Yeah, so bringing it all together, agile full stack teams, independently deployable microservices, trunk-based development, feature flags, fast automated repeatable tests, appropriately scheduled work and API versioning. But essentially you can have all this, tie it together in the best way. But the main thing that allows us to do what we do is that our client trusts us to release every day. So if you're not allowed to release every day, you'll not be able to release every day. And the way that you gain that trust is by those fast automated tests, which give clients the confidence that what you're releasing is safe to do so. Essentially what this results in is that when we go to change management, we're not seeking approval to release code. We're seeking approval from our change management boards to switch features on. The code is already in production, it's just not in use. So the change approval boards and the change management boards are all about, can we switch this on, not can we release the code to production. As always, there's some areas for improvement. Essentially, our performance test isn't fully in our pipelines yet. It's still executed manually. The same with our accessibility test, and even though we are fully compliant, and we've yet to automate publishing of changes to our change management system. This is all still manual, but we're working on it. But given that aside, everything that we have allows us to release over 500 times a year across the estate which we look after with 0% downtime. I went a bit quick there, so I think I have a minute or two for a question.